Welcome to a Starter and a Chaser podcast with your hosts, Joe Clarke and Jon Passow.
Time flies like an arrow. Fruit flies like a banana. Hi. Welcome to a Starter and a Chaser podcast, where every week we review one whiskey and one beer. But today we've got a very special episode for you. I'm Professional Brewer, Jon Passow.
I'm Whiskey Connoisseur, Joe Clarke, and it's a whiskey day, not a whiskey and a beer.
And today we are going to talk about how oxygen affects the flavors and aromas of whiskey.
And this is actually kind of a controversial bottle for you.
For me.
Yeah.
For me.
I like this, but let's see what happens here as one has been opened, and we're about a little under half full.
Yeah, about three.
Something.
One-fourth.
Yeah, sure.
Some fraction. Some fraction.
We got a fresh bottle here. So we got the Blender Select. So it's a Bulleit Blender Select.
Very special bottling, as they call it. It is a series that they're doing. This is batch 1. And basically, we're going to crack this open. So we've got a fresh bottle. And now this one has been open for about a month now, so it's had a lot of time to breathe, as they say. Oxygen gets into it and changes some of the flavors. Ooh, good.
Ooh, nice little pop.
Ooh, mine pops more.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
All right.
Maybe because there's not much juice in there.
Yeah,
so
could be.
Let's see what happens here, Jon.
Yeah, we're gonna pour these side by side. Let me, I'll give the pour. And while I pour, Joe, you talk about how oxygen really affects the profile once a whiskey.
So sometimes when you have a bottle open, also take into mind, we're not going to get into it, but don't store your bottles in a very well lit room where a lot of light hits your bottles. So that's a bad thing. But keeping a bottle open in a proper temperature room, oxygen is going to affect the whiskey. In my experience, most of the time, oxygen kind of lets the whiskey open up, brings out more of the smell, more of the palate, meaning flavor. I've always had a pretty positive experience with it. There have been some bottles recently where oxygen has negatively affected the bourbon, making it sour or kind of bitter, or even just a flat tasting, like you have a fresh Coca-Cola, Jon, and it's just crisp and a lot of carbonation. It's good.
I'm a Dr. Pepper kind of man.
Dr. Pepper. One's been sitting out for a couple hours and the carbonation's gone and it's flat. Similar things with oxygen in whiskey can happen too.
So I've got these poured, and we've got them labeled underneath the camera. You can't see it, but we've got fresh and aged open bottle. Now, we'll start off with the fresh crack.
Okay, so let's do it.
We haven't actually reviewed this one on the podcast. We might get around to it later. It is a product from Bulleit. Most everybody knows Bulleit, but this is a kind of a cool limited production that they're doing. It's got some cool colors to it. It's nice and deep, but
it's a thick drink, man. It takes a long time for the legs to form, so it's a nice oily, thick drink. Jon's going to show you there. Nice color to it, nice dark color.
So let's start off with the aromas. What do you get on the fresh crack?
This is very fruity. Every time I've opened a bottle of this, it's always been very stone fruit forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty. You get a lot of the barrel. You don't get the typical like caramel vanilla stuff on this one. Maybe a little kind of a nutty thing going on, a little leathery.
Okay.
I can get some on this one. Has been a whiskey where a lot of people are like, oh, tobacco-y, or I kind of get like that pipe tobacco aroma on this one on a fresh crack.
All right.
So it's good. Yeah. All right.
What about the
the old one?
Yes.
Same year.
Same year.
Damn.
Wow, I think he's picked up some differences here.
So Jon has been complaining how this is kind of gone.
I wouldn't say complain. And you know what? Let's save that. Let's save that for a little bit. I don't want to play my hand here for the audience quite yet.
Ooh.
Joe's going on a deep dive on this one. What are you picking up?
It's definitely transformed. quite a bit, actually a lot.
Wow.
You actually start pulling more of the caramel notes on the nose now that it has sat with a lot of oxygen. A lot of the barrels coming through on this. Some vanilla. Not as stone fruit as the other one. Actually more of a lighter fruit kind of smell going on. More citrusy, I would say. With the oxygen hit, the tobacco and the leathery kind of smell, like leather, fresh old, or I shouldn't say fresh, like an old bonded leather jacket kind of
interesting
background to that one.
Okay.
Yeah, they're completely different products almost.
Wow. Okay. And that's just being open for a month.
Yeah.
Let's give the fresh
crack a try. Sláinte.
Gesundheit. Baking spice. Right up front, baking spice, and then just this beautiful dark fruit, fig, pluot, molasses, rich molasses. And this is really interesting because this reminds me of the time that I cracked my bottle.
And we were super impressed.
Fresh, it blew me out of the water. I was like, holy cow, this is everything I love. Those dark notes, the fig and everything. And I get that right here.
I like that you say the fig on this, like the dark fruit kind of fig on this. That does explain this very well, because funnily enough, I have dark fruit fig bars at home.
So
This reminds me of that taste.
And I get molasses, but I also get a little something.
Still get the barrel notes on this. So you've always said that about this. We've talked about this. We've actually had an incredibly long phone conversation about this drink.
Going back and tasting. And
I mean, it was a long phone conversation. And there is like a mustiness to this in the background that is very hard to place.
That's the funk
on the fresh crack. Is it overpowering? Does it turn me off? No, it's
not
cool.
At all.
It's kind of like an interesting note to the bourbon. So let's go to the open bottle. Instead, let's go into the bottle that has been open, that has a lot of air in it. It's been about a month. Vanna White. Let's see what we get on this.
Just like Joe pointed out, the caramel has come out on the palate, like Joe said, on the nose it has. I don't get all those dark fruits.
No.
They're subtle.
Almost kind of disappeared.
I get still a little tiny hint of the dark fruits, but more so it's the molasses. And when I say that, it is very subtle for my palate. I get a little more of the barrel that comes out, some of the vanilla.
I'm getting that tobacco-y note to it big time. Not getting the dark fruits like he says. It's kind of disappeared.
That mustiness has come out.
The mustiness is strong, and also a very spicy note is very strong mid-palate for me. Kind of rye-like.
See, for me, the fresh crack, I did get like a baker's spice right off of the bat. And I hear what you're saying, and I get that more. And it does feel like, on the fresh crack, it was more baking spice. On the open bottle, it is more rye note, rye spice.
This is incredibly different from this one. And that doesn't happen a lot, because I've had bottles of mine that have been open, and even fresh cracks of that same bottle where they had the familiar flavors were always there. They just became more powerful over time. Where this one has actually kind of changed into a different whiskey.
Absolutely. So Joe was talking about before, I didn't want him to put the cat out of the bag per se. My impressions on this, and they're still the same, is this whiskey has been so unique for me in the fact that it has changed every single week that I've had it. I mean, it's been open a month and you can see how much is left. So
Right.
I've been revisiting this a lot and tracking it because it's very fascinating for me to see how dynamically it is changing.
And I almost didn't want to believe him. Because my fresh crack, John, is not much lower than this. Not my fresh crack, my old crack
Your
is
old crack.
probably right under the Bulleit sign here, and this one is now here.
So you're not getting that much oxygen in there
Yeah.
to change it as drastically as I have.
Right.
And this whiskey has oscillated between, oh my God, this is blowing me away, to, I probably wouldn't pick up another bottle.
It seems like to change
And-
every day for you. You're like,
and it's-
I love it.
I hate it.
I love it. I hate it.
It's my bipolar whiskey, as
it
it
is.
were.
It's
I mean, it's very dynamically changing week to week, and I've never had a whiskey like that.
Right.
Is that a good thing? I don't know.
I think it's kind of cool.
It is cool. Also, for me, it's like I would be worried about that because I would want a stable product that I'd go back to. I would know what I'm getting. I want to, go back and revisit those flavors. Like revisiting the fresh crack for me, I love those dark fruit notes in that molasses. It was like one of my favorite whiskeys of 2020 that I've had. But then like a week later, it's completely different. And it's like, well, I want those dark fruits again. Where are those dark fruits?
You know what I'm going to do for us, John? I'm going to take some of this or the other one and pour it to the other one to fill the bottle back up, and that'll be my drinker. The one with the most air in it, I'm going to leave set aside in my cabinet there for a good 6 months, and then we'll come back to it.
That would be fun, and
How
we'll
about
film that episode after 6 months and see how drastically it has changed, if at all. So there you go.
All right, guys. Thank you for watching this today in our show on how oxygen can actually change a bottle of whiskey from this to this, and it's the same product.
I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to leave a comment, subscribe, and
If you've had Blender Select, what do you think? And also, you can hear us on the sound side if you can't watch us. Links are below. Comment below. Give us a like. Ring the bell. Thank you, guys. Appreciate
hope
it.
you enjoyed.